I'm Evelyn Saunders, a 43-year-old ex-nurse, now serving as a minister in Sacramento, California. I'm here to recount my near-death encounters, during which Jesus unveiled the astonishing realities of fasting to me. The visions and revelations I received during this time deeply altered my perspective on fasting, prayer, and the spiritual world. Before we dive in, please let me know your location in the comments. It's nice to feel connected despite the distance. Also, remember to hit like and share your thoughts on this near-death experience testimony. Let's engage in an open and respectful discussion to enrich our understanding here on this channel. Hope you enjoy the story. The incident occurred on September 12th, 2023. At the time, I was deep into a water-only fast that had reached its 7th day, a commitment I felt divinely guided to make. Fasting wasn't new to me. It had always been a crucial part of my spiritual practice. Yet this fast carried a mystical significance that was beyond my comprehension. I was en route to our church for an early morning prayer meeting at 5:30 a.m. Sacramento's streets were unusually silent, and a rare light rain was drizzling, a peculiar scene for September. As I drove, worship music played, and I prayed, feeling an intense connection to the divine. Then, as I turned onto Madison Avenue, my life took a sudden dramatic turn. A drunk driver in a pickup truck ignored the red light and crashed into my car at the driver's side with terrifying force. The medical reports later revealed that the accident had caused severe internal bleeding and multiple organ failures, and I was clinically dead for 17 minutes and 23 seconds. However, what I experienced during those 17 minutes transcended any reality I had known in my 43 years. The shift from life to what seemed like death was instantaneous. One moment I was trapped in my mangled car, and the next I was floating above the scene. From this vantage point, I could see everything. The paramedics tirelessly trying to revive my body, police officers managing the traffic, and the young man responsible for the crash, overwhelmed with guilt, sitting on the curb. Then something extraordinary occurred. The chaos below began to blur as I was gently pulled upwards through what appeared to be a tunnel radiating with pure, vibrant light. This experience was unlike anything of this world. I felt no fear or pain, only an enveloping peace and love that touched the core of my existence. As I ascended, I realized I had left my physical form behind, yet felt more present and alive than ever. My spiritual senses were amplified beyond imagination. Suddenly, I found myself at what seemed like the outskirts of heaven. The beauty there was beyond words, colors unseen on earth, music emanating from every direction, yet from nowhere, and light so brilliant it surpassed the sun's, yet was gentle to the eyes. However, the most captivating sight was the interaction I witnessed between heaven and earth. Above me, I observed golden strands of light stretching from earth to heaven. These were not mere threads, but spiritual channels formed by the prayers and fasting of devout individuals. It was as if I was looking at a celestial map, showcasing vibrant lines that linked the physical to the spiritual domains. It was then that I heard his voice, Jesus. The moment he spoke, I recognized it was him, although he was not yet visible. His voice echoed within me, deep and clear. Evelyn, I have brought you here to reveal truths unseen by your eyes and unheard by your ears. In the next instant, Jesus appeared before me. His visage was both familiar and extraordinarily different from any depiction known to me. His presence was commanding, emanating pure love, authority, and might. His eyes, deep with love and understanding, made me feel utterly seen and profoundly cherished. Watch, he commanded, And what followed was a series of visions about fasting that would irrevocably transform my understanding of this sacred practice. Jesus first showed me the impact of fasting on the spiritual realm. I witnessed how true fasting initiates what appeared as a rend in a dark, oppressive spiritual veil enveloping the earth. This tear allowed heaven's light and power to cascade down more freely. Jesus explained, "Many of my children don't realize the immense power at their disposal through fasting. When you fast with a sincere heart, seeking me and my kingdom, you align yourself with heaven in ways beyond your comprehension." Jesus then revealed the ongoing fast I was engaged in at the time of my accident. I witnessed how each day had been fortifying a clearer and more potent conduit between heaven and earth, like a spiritual muscle gaining strength with each fast day. I saw that my prayers during this period wielded enhanced authority and penetrated spiritual barriers, which would have otherwise taken much longer to break through. He guided me to what he termed the halls of time, where I observed countless faithful throughout history who had committed to serious fasting. I watched Moses during his 40-day fast as he received the 10 Commandments, and now I understood the spiritual dynamics at play. His fasting had crafted a space in the spiritual realm that allowed God's glory to manifest, enabling him to receive the laws. I saw Daniel, whose fasting effectively repelled dark spiritual forces over entire regions. I glimpsed numerous unknown faithful whose fasts had altered spiritual climates and redirected the flow of historical events, unbeknownst to them during their lifetimes. "Evelyn," Jesus spoke, "I am revealing these truths to you because my church is approaching a time when understanding the power of fasting is critical. The upcoming battles will not be won by prayer alone. Fasting must be reinstated to its rightful role." He then shared a vision that profoundly affected me. I saw how collective fasting by groups of believers created what appeared to be spiritual tempests of power. These communal fasts generated a spiritual momentum that could transform atmospheres over cities and nations. He showed me that in future scenarios, such corporate fasting would be vital for achieving breakthroughs. "But daughter," Jesus warned, "not every type of fasting is equally powerful in the spiritual world." He then explained various forms of fasting and their impacts. I observed that fasting performed for appearance or out of mere religious duty had little spiritual effect. However, fasting conducted with true humility, sincere repentance, and a heartfelt yearning to connect deeper with God unleashed significant spiritual forces. Something else caught my attention during this revelation. Jesus illustrated how fasting influences what might be called our spiritual DNA. Fasting, he suggested, enhances our spiritual senses. I witnessed how prolonged fasting actually forged new spiritual connections within individuals, enabling them to achieve higher levels of discernment and spiritual power, even after the fasting period ended. "Many of my followers," Jesus continued, "view fasting as a method to compel me to act. But it's not about persuading me. It's about aligning yourself to cooperate with what I'm already planning to accomplish. When you fast, you align your spiritual frequency with that of heaven." He also demonstrated how fasting impacts spiritual battles. I saw believers who fasted adorned with extra spiritual armor. Their prayers while fasting acted like sharp spiritual weapons, striking their marks with remarkable precision and force. Yet, he cautioned me, I noticed that the enemy particularly targets those who fast because he recognizes its power. Protection during fasting is essential, Jesus stressed. Remain shielded by my blood and my word. Never fast relying solely on your own strength or understanding. Jesus then revealed to me the link between fasting and spiritual authority. I witnessed how each day of genuine fasting boosted a believer's spiritual command in prayer and conflict. It resembled observing someone ascend in military rank within heaven's forces. Their declarations had increased influence in the spiritual domain, and their prayers produced more substantial effects. Keep in mind, Jesus advised, this authority isn't something you earn, it's bestowed. While fasting prepares you to wield greater authority, the authority itself is granted by me. He then showed me what appeared to be spiritual reservoirs. These seemed like vaults of spiritual resources, accessible in future necessities. I noted that those who engaged in regular fasting had accumulated substantial spiritual reserves, fortifying them during challenging times. One of the most moving insights Jesus shared was how fasting enhances worship. During fasting periods, our worship carried a distinct essence in heaven. It seemed as though the act of fasting infused our prayers and praise with a precious component, rendering them exceptionally delightful to God. When my children worship during fasting, Jesus explained, it forges a special resonance with the worship in heaven. The blend of praise and fasting is profoundly powerful. Then Jesus revealed one of the most profound aspects of what he was showing me. I witnessed the growing necessity to grasp the power of fasting as we approach increasingly challenging times. I saw upcoming trials and difficulties that would demand God's people to wield spiritual authority, achievable only through combined prayer and fasting. The future, Jesus declared, will necessitate that my followers be spiritually equipped. Fasting isn't just an option for the looming battles. It is an essential tool of spiritual warfare, needing careful understanding and application. He illustrated how fasting shatters what appeared as dark chains in the spiritual realm. These chains symbolized various entrapments, addictions, generational curses, and spiritual oppressions. When individuals fast and pray with faith and sincere intentions, these chains start to weaken and eventually break apart. Yet what Jesus showed me next moved me deeply. I saw how our fasting aligns with his continual intercessory work. When we fast, it's as if we are directly joining him in his intercessory endeavors in a unique manner. I observed how this partnership delivered genuine joy to him, true happiness, as his followers chose self-denial to collaborate with his divine intentions. Evelyn, he spoke, when my children fast with pure hearts, it deeply affects me. It's not about earning my love. You already possess it entirely. It's about engaging more profoundly with my plans. Jesus then illustrated how fasting influences our spiritual legacy. As we fast, it's as though we are removing obstructions from wells of spiritual heritage, enabling these ancient sources to flow once more. I witnessed how some people's fasting was actually reopening access to spiritual blessings that had been obstructed for generations. He revealed how fasting forms what appeared to be spiritual bridges. These bridges look to link different facets of God's endeavors and intentions, forming conduits for his power to surge through. I observed how our fasting occasionally establishes connections that God utilizes long after the fasting ends. Then Jesus emphasized the concept of fasting and spiritual multiplication. When we fast with sincere hearts, God often amplifies the spiritual effects far beyond what we might envision. I saw how one individual's devoted fasting could impact an entire community, generating lasting waves in the spiritual realm that persisted across generations. The spiritual influence of fasting, Jesus elucidated, often extends much beyond what is visible in the physical world. Sometimes, the most significant outcomes of your fasting will only become apparent in eternity. He then explained how fasting ties into spiritual timing. Sometimes God prompts us to fast not for immediate results, but to prepare us for what He foresees. I realized how fasting was strengthening people spiritually before they were even aware they would need that strength. In the times to come, Jesus told me, many of my followers will need to learn to fast preemptively, not merely reacting to crises, but preparing for what I foresee. He then revealed how fasting enhances our spiritual discernment. It's as if fasting sharpens our spiritual antennas, enabling us to more clearly tune into heaven's frequency. I noticed that those who fasted regularly gained a heightened awareness of the Holy Spirit's guidance. But perhaps most significantly, Jesus illustrated how fasting deepens our connection with Him. He showed me how it fosters special moments of communion that profoundly change people from within. Fasting, he explained, carves out room in your soul for more of my presence. It's not solely about gaining spiritual power. It's about deepening your relationship with me. As my visit to heaven neared its end, Jesus imparted one final, essential insight. He revealed that we are approaching times when understanding the power of fasting will be increasingly crucial. I saw that God was summoning His people to return to biblical fasting as a preparation for what lies ahead. Tell them what you've witnessed, Jesus instructed. Tell them that I am calling my church back to biblical fasting. The time is short, and my people must understand these truths. As my vision began to fade, Jesus gazed at me with such love and gentleness that it seemed my spirit might overflow. Remember, he advised, the strength does not reside in the fasting itself. The strength is in me. Fasting prepares you to align with what I am already planning to accomplish. Suddenly, I was back in my physical body in the hospital, surrounded by astonished medical staff. They were amazed at what they saw. Not only had I revived after being declared dead for over 17 minutes, but I also suffered no brain damage or lasting effects from the ordeal. The doctors deemed it a miracle, and they were correct, but they only knew a fraction of the whole story. Just when I thought I had received profound insights from my initial near-death experience, God had yet another deeper revelation awaiting. It occurred 3 months later, during an extended period of fasting and prayer. This time, there was no accident. I experienced what doctors later described as an inexplicable cardiac event while praying in my bedroom. My heart ceased beating for 4 minutes and 12 seconds, but in those critical moments, I was transported back to that familiar expanse of radiant light. Upon entering, I understood why God had called me back. He had more to reveal about fasting. Jesus was there, His presence as magnificent and beautiful as ever. This time, however, His approach was more intimate, akin to a friend eager to share a cherished secret. "Evelyn," he began, "I've brought you back to show you the fruits of your teachings." Instantly, I was presented with a panoramic view of the spiritual impact since I started sharing my testimony about fasting. I observed streams of light, those same spiritual channels I had seen during my first experience, expanding across the globe. Each beam of light symbolized someone who had embraced and begun practicing biblical fasting, inspired by what Jesus had shown me. "Watch," he instructed, and I witnessed transformations in people's lives. Addictions were conquered, healing manifested, and relationships mended, all through the united force of prayer and biblical fasting. Yet, what moved me most profoundly were the intimate encounters these individuals had with Jesus during their fasts. Every act of foregoing food carved out a unique space for deep communion with Him. "Do you see?" Jesus inquired. "What I revealed to you wasn't meant solely for you. It was intended for my beloved church, my precious bride. Each truth you've shared has sown seeds that are now flourishing." Then He showed me something that brought tears to my eyes. I saw how each application of these truths about fasting in someone's life initiated a ripple effect in the spiritual realm. This impact extended beyond their immediate existence, touching generations. These ripples were forging what appeared to be waves of revival, setting the stage for something even more profound. "The days ahead," Jesus said, "will demand that my people operate in levels of spiritual authority previously unknown to them. What I have shown you about fasting is not merely advisable, it is critical preparation for what lies ahead." He then shared how the collective understanding and practice of biblical fasting was transforming the spiritual landscape of His church. As more believers embraced and practiced biblical fasting, their combined spiritual strength was repelling darkness in ways never before seen. "Tell them again," Jesus urged, "but this time speak with the authority of one who has witnessed the impact. Tell them that I am calling my church back to biblical fasting, not as a mere religious ritual, but as preparation for the most significant outpouring of my Spirit they have ever experienced." He showed me how every individual who adopted these truths about fasting became akin to a spiritual lighthouse, their radiance dispelling darkness within their families, communities, and nations. Yet, He stressed once more that the efficacy lay not in the act of fasting itself, but in His faithfulness to honor the humble sacrifices of His followers. "Remember," Jesus conveyed as my visit neared its end, "I didn't reveal these things just for your knowledge. I disclosed them so you could enable my people to comprehend. The hour is later than they realize, and my church needs to be ready." Just before everything vanished, Jesus imparted one last message. "Tell them I'm not calling them to fast to earn my love. They already possess it fully. I call them to fasting because I wish to entrust them with my power. The darkness is growing, but through prayer and fasting, my light within them will shine even brighter." When I came back to life this second time, my understanding of why God had revealed these things to me was even clearer. Every aspect of fasting that He had shown wasn't just backed by Scripture. It had been validated in the lives of countless believers who started to implement these truths. This second encounter deepened my conviction. Jesus is urging His church to reclaim the power of biblical fasting. It's not about manipulating God or earning His favor, but about aligning ourselves to cooperate with heaven during these pivotal times. The issue isn't whether Jesus is summoning us to fast. He unmistakably is. The real question is, how will we respond? Will we heed His call to ready ourselves through prayer and fasting for the forthcoming challenges? Will we seize this spiritual key He's offered us, or will we let fear and complacency deter us? If you're hearing this, it's not coincidental. Jesus is drawing you into a deeper comprehension of fasting, not as a religious duty, but as a chance for meaningful collaboration with heaven. Don't let anything prevent you from embracing this truth. The spiritual domain is more tangible than anything we can observe with our eyes, and through biblical fasting, we are invited to collaborate with heaven in ways that will resonate through generations. The time is now. Jesus is calling. He awaits His church's answer.